Welcome to Inside City Hall. I'm your host, Mayor Daryl Seymore, and today our first guest is Chief Joe Shelley of the Show Low Police Department. Welcome, Joe.
Well, thank you, Mayor.
Good to have you with us again today.
It's good to be here.
What we want to talk a little bit today is a lot of the public has seen that we've taken down our photo enforcement cameras, and that has been a change by the City Council. We decided not to renew that contract with that particular company, and so they've been up, I think, about 4 or 5 years prior to that. What have you seen as Chief of Police, a change in driving habits, or have you seen any changes since we've taken down those cameras?
And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this because it was a very hard subject for us, for all of us in the community, to talk about this. And the surveys that went out, it was a very, very good program when it was working. And again, when we got rid of it, was kind of a changed pattern for us for our deployment for the officers. Since the cameras were all on the 6260 intersections, or the thoroughfares, we saw an increase of speeds out there ever since those cameras have come down. So about middle of June, about June 13th is when they went down. They were covered. We had the cameras still operational for a little over a month afterwards, just to see what the traffic patterns were going to be and where we would have to deploy the officers. We saw a significant increase over on the 260 area, over just this side of Jack in the Box, between Jack in the Box and Wolford. We saw a significant increase over in there, upwards of almost 800 to 1,000% increase in violations just in that month afterwards. And high speeds, we're seeing 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. So our deployment over in those areas was significant. But again, we have still the same police force, same size of police force, but now we have to cover those areas along with all the calls that were going on. High traffic season, obviously during the summertime. That's where we really concentrated some of our forces over there, some on 260, some of the red light cameras up on Central and 60 as well on the Deuce. So we did see a significant increase overall. So overall the cameras showed about a 300% increase in violations. That's every camera, that's what the violations averaged. And we've seen some increases in accidents in some areas of the Deuce and 260 mostly. That's where they're at. Okay.
Now I know that we have some changes that are still going to be coming forward here. Some of that is going to be the warning lights that will be coming out. Let's talk a little bit about the warning lights.
Some of the people that live here see the warning lights right now. They're over at the school zones, over by Homestead Elementary and over by the Show Low High School, over off of Old Linden Road. Those are the speed warning cameras, speed warning signs. There's no cameras there, so make sure everybody understands there's no cameras, no violations. All that is to warn the driver coming up into that zone what their speed is, and then there will be a speed limit sign right above it to tell them, here's the speed limit, here's yours, please adjust to that. And those signs, what we were planning on doing, and now we're actually putting them up this week. If they're not up this week, it'll be next week. Over at Bagnell Wash, where the old cameras were at, where the speed cameras were at, is we're putting a speed sign there to let everybody know coming through there, it's 45 miles an hour. They need to slow down again. I think that's the third sign that tells everybody to slow down, but this one's going to flash their signs. This going to be flash their speed to them. The other one's going to be over off of 60 as you're approaching, coming into the 6260 intersection there. It'll be coming up into there, letting them know the exact same thing, what their speed is and what the speed limit is. So those two intersections, those two areas will have those speed warning signs up, hopefully slowing people down coming into our city.
Now, are we going to have anything up where on this, by the Jack in the Box down in that area? Will we have any warning lights through there?
We don't have anything there right now. Some of the monies that we're using that coming out of that traffic safety fund, that we still have a little bit of money left. We might look at to get a couple in that area just to let people know what their speed is. But I think it's just going to be a behavioral change for everybody to slow down. We've seen the rear end accidents, people not paying attention. At higher speeds, it doesn't take very long to reach down because you drop something, or to look down and change the channel on the radio and look up and be involved in a rear end accident.
Driving is such, I think the behaviors of people have changed drastically with the introduction of cell phones, or more cell phone, more texting, more things that are just competing for our time and our attention. And although a lot of drivers now, there has been a lot of talk about making Arizona a text-free state, that if you're well, I don't know how you make it text free, but a texting violation is mandatory if you're caught texting. What's your take on that?
Well, right now we have distracted driver laws on the books. So if someone's involved in an accident when they were doing something like that, like texting or some other behavior, the distracted driving is there. It's for us to enforce. For us, it doesn't matter. Just pay attention while you're driving. The cell phones today, they have a lot of hands-free devices out there. We would obviously love everybody to stop and go and try to text, but they also have now hands-free devices for texting. So you push a button on it and you can text while you're driving, just by voice messaging.
Yeah, that's great. Tell me, we do have the warning lights over by the schools, okay, over on the Nicholas Homestead School as well as the high school. How have those worked? Have they been effective since we put those in? Do you feel that that's been a pattern change to people?
I think it's been a significant pattern change for people to understand that when they see that their speed limit or their speed is 35 and they're coming into a 25-mile-an-hour area, they start slowing down drastically. Our officers are deployed in those areas, especially around the start of school, middle of school, end of school. So we're over in those areas quite often. Homestead is right next to the police station, so there's a lot of officers, marked units, senior patrol, everybody that works that area anyway. But we see a lot of people slowing down in a very congested area. So it's a smaller, it's a more confined area, especially around Homestead. It's very confined, and with that speed limit and the playground so close to that road, I think the community has seen that and they've slowed down significantly. On the other side of town over at the high school, they're slowing down, but again, our enforcement efforts are helping out with that as well. So we start at the beginning of school, giving them warnings, slow down, this is a speed zone, blah, 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 and what we're trying to do now is saying, okay, the warnings are gone, now we're going to be enforcing strict enforcement in those areas.
Okay, so going back where we used to have cameras, are we writing more tickets in those areas now, or has it caused the police department to start issuing more citations in those areas? Have you seen the number of citations you've had to issue up, an increase of that, or has it stayed close to the same of what you were issuing prior to the cameras?
I think what we're doing is we're issuing more citations for people that are 11 plus is what we're seeing. Whereas before we might have given them a warning because they were below 10 or below 8, actually 8 miles an hour below. We stop them and give them warnings. But now we're seeing a significant increase in 11, 12, 17, 20 over into the criminal citations, which is 21 plus. So we're seeing that. So we're issuing more citations right now than we have in the past, probably the past couple of years now. So significant increase from last year to this year. Almost twofold of what the officers are doing. But we're still doing a lot of stops out there, and we're still giving a lot of warnings to people just to let them know, slow down, wear their seatbelts, whatever it is. But there's going to be a point where we have to, like I said, when you get that 11 plus, they're going to probably get cited for those. Okay. Unless there's a good reason. So we still, officer's discretion is still there.
We've added a new traffic light since photo enforcement cameras have kind of come down. There's a new traffic light on 9th Street in the Deuce Clubs. What are you seeing the effect of that traffic light?
This is just from my personal observation and what we hear from the officers, is that it's a much safer environment down there, especially coming out of the county complex, coming out of the city hall area. It's much safer for people coming off of that intersection. Before, they were darting out into traffic, and 3 lanes of traffic or 4 lanes of traffic is very dangerous to cross, and it's a congested area. So it's helped us. It's increased driver awareness to what's going on down there, and the safety for everybody, especially pedestrians trying to cross the street too.
Well, it's helped me get back on the road, get over to City Hall once in a while. It's definitely helped there. So going forward, what do you see as far as what message do we need to get out to people since we don't have photo enforcement? What is our next step of how we try to get the behavior changed in our community of people just recognizing that we do live in a very high traffic area? Speed kills, and speed causes more significant accidents, but we had that a little bit under control with the photo enforcement, the red light violations, those things, were down. I probably saw 2 red lights ran this morning just in my commute to and from work. But what is the officers doing to try to educate people?
Our office is doing two different things. First off is the education putting out there with the speed warning signs, and there's probably going to be a couple of more going out, just so that we can help everybody understand where they're at that particular time. And every one of us have driven down the road and our head is somewhere else. We're thinking on something else, whether it's dinner plans or with our friends or our family. And all of a sudden you see that sign pop up and it shows you how fast you're going, and it actually changes your behavior, which is what photo safety did, or photo enforcement did, is it changed your behavior. You knew you were coming up into that area, or the red light cameras, you knew you were coming up into that area. You had to pay a lot more attention. The locals, I think we're doing, our community members are doing great. We see that a lot with the photo enforcement. They were below 20% of all violators were community members, whereas when they first came on, it was more like 65%. So it changed our community quite a bit, and now we're just hoping the community still stays with that behavior. We all understand that there's a lot of kids out there, a lot of people, it's a congested area. During the summer months, we have a lot of other people coming up, a lot of different drivers coming up from whatever they bring their habits from the valley up into our area. And we just have to be a little more patient with that. So our officers will be, during those times, those high traffic areas, will be working those the high enforcement zones and things like that where the traffic is big.
And hopefully these warning lights will help return back. It'll be interesting to see how that changes after we put those on, if they're effective and being able to work. One of the things I know that we miss a little bit is some of the opportunity that we had with the license plate reader, of being able to work with our drug force and trying to catch criminals that we knew that possibly were transporting illegal drugs. But I know that you guys have been real successful in having a couple of big busts. Recently you had a haul of over 500 pounds of marijuana, and you've had some different meth things that have taken down, even a few heroin. What are you seeing as far as drug trafficking through here, and what can we do to help now that we don't have that LPR?
Well, you know, it's still, we look at the traffic stops where those large loads were taken off, and when you're taking 10, 12 pounds of heroin off the street, that's a significant amount of heroin. It doesn't sound like a lot, but in the drug world, that's a significant amount. And in the hundreds of pounds of marijuana, high-grade marijuana, not only is it very, very expensive, but it costs the drug trafficking organizations, it's a big hit on them, the hundreds of pounds. But we're missing probably 90% of the stuff that goes through. Mm-hmm. And when we're doing our traffic enforcement, we're looking for indicators out there of possible drug trafficking organizations or the vehicles coming through. Just so happened those were violations, and the officers doing a great investigation on this, and they're stepping up their investigative tactics or techniques when they're making those traffic stops, and that's what led us to those loads. It wasn't the LPR, right, but the LPR helps us. It was helping us in other areas, such as missing children. Right. And then they have the blue alert, which is the elderly people that are missing from our from our communities, and those can be countrywide. So and we know in the transient community that we have, if we're looking for a car in Idaho, it's not a far reach for it to be showing up in Arizona. Right. We lost that tool, and that's probably one of the things that hurt us the most is the LPR. It was a closed circuit LPR where we were the ones controlling all the information going in, going out, but it was a very good investigative tool. So we're trying to do that on our own, but it's very, very hard to do.
It is. Well, Chief, we appreciate you sharing those insights to us here, and it's great to have you on our show.
Thank you, sir.
Stay tuned for the next segment of Inside City Hall, when we'll talk about the upcoming Community Fast and how you can get involved. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Our next two guests are Steve Williams, President of the Show Low Stake of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Tom Brown of the New Hope Christian Fellowship Church. Welcome, gentlemen.
Mr.
Tom,
Mayor. Good to see you, Mayor.
Glad to have you with us today. You know, about a year ago, we had a great thing happen in our community. You guys came to us with the city. We partnered together having a community fast. We were able to raise some good money that went to a very good cause for those people that are needy in our community, especially during the holiday season. And now we're ready to start this again and have our second annual community fast. Share with us a little bit of your thoughts here. Let's start with you, Reverend Brown. Pastor Brown, whatever you prefer to go by today. What do you prefer?
Pastor.
Pastor, okay, sorry.
Last year was a good experience, Mr. Mayor, and The community raised $9,000 that was divided among several of the helping organizations. A third of it went to Salvation Army and the Christian Community Outreach. A third went to the Safe House. And a third went to those students and families in the Show Low School District in need who we were in contact with through teachers and administrative personnel. We helped a lot of people. It was really good. And I'm very grateful for the response of the people in Show Low and the surrounding area, that they felt with us a sense of compassion for the people who have basic needs, housing, fuel, food, etc., and particularly during the season of Thanksgiving and Christmas.
That's great. President Williams, share with us a little bit the concept of this community fast, how it kind of works and why it's so successful.
Well, the way it started was a group of the pastors had been in conversation of ways that we could come together and help unite our congregations. And the concept of a community fast, where we would come together and fast for 1 or 2 meals and take the money we would have spent on those meals, or more if able, and donate them to help local families in need. So several of the pastors got on board with that, and we were excited about that. As you know, Mayor, we then approached the city, and the city was excited and jumped on board with that as well. So we're excited now to have a second annual Show Low Community Fast for Show Low and the surrounding areas. Last year, I think our goal was, we thought if we could raise $5,000 that first year to help local families, it would be a success. And there was over $9,000 that was raised, and so we were excited about that. We're excited to do it again and to keep all of the money raised here locally to help families in need.
That's what's neat. 100% of the entire amount that is raised. You'll see some signs, you'll see some different things that are going up, but even those do not come out of the funds that are being raised. We have other means of which we've been able to do that through sponsors and different families that will donate towards that, so that 100% of what the community gives will go back to the community.
And that's important to emphasize, Mr. Mayor, because we don't have any administrative costs. And the people of Show Low have been very gracious in paying for any advertisement out of their own pockets. And that's great, and we're happy about that. Also, people need to realize that the more they give, whether it's actually through fasting meals or just out of their heart and graciousness, the more people we help. And it's important, I think, for the people of Show Low and the surrounding area to know that local needs of people who are marginal, that is the working poor especially, that don't make enough to pay their bills, have greater and greater needs. And we as the community really finally have some kind of moral responsibility for that.
We do. I mean, it's one of our obligations to care for the needy and to do it as a community. And it's one of the great things to see the different churches and different people coming together, both from the citizens as well as the evangelistic aspect of our community, and people working together to really find and seek out those people who do have a serious need at this time. You know, they have needs throughout the whole year, but sometimes they're magnified more during the Christmas season and Thanksgiving season. Now, when is this going to take place? I know last year, if you aren't able to fast on the specific week, we just ask you to do that sometime through the month. And then the donations, where can they donate, and when is the time frame?
The fast is specifically November 16th through the 22nd. That's the week that we invite members of the community to pick 1 or 2 meals on any day of their choice and to fast. But they can contribute any time during the month of November at any of the banks in town: Washington Federal, Chase, National Bank of Arizona, and Arizona Central Credit Union, as well as City Hall. So they can donate at any of those financial institutions or City Hall anytime during the month. And Mayor, can I just share one experience I had recently on this fast? The feedback that I have gotten last year and into this year has been so positive. This last weekend, I was talking to the spouse of one of the PTSO presidents in town, and he was asking about the community fast. And I was giving him details, and he was excited, and he got a little emotional. And he said, "Do you know, last year I watched as my wife took these funds and went and bought coats and boots for some of these kids in need." And he said it was a great blessing, and it was a neat thing to see for these kids. And so he was excited, and I was excited that we could build upon last year's successes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know, and a lot of times people who maybe aren't of a religious faith, they don't really understand a fast. And so, you know, it's one of those things that we become a little more spiritually inclined, a little better as we prepare our mind and our set. And I think in our proclamation it was that we also initiate in this some prayer of thanksgiving and gratitude for the things that we have, that we are a blessed community, and that we need to give thought to those people and to those great creators that we all have. And a true fast then is to abstain from something that will cause a difference in your life. And in this case, we've asked you to abstain from food.
Yeah.
And to take that, what you would normally spend, and then to give that again in a donation, a monetary or financial donation, that it could bless the life of someone else. What a great concept of being able to do without so someone else can have.
Well, Mr. Mayor, fasting is a worldwide phenomenon in all different cultures. And it doesn't necessarily attach itself always to a religious context. People have fasted for all kinds of reasons, but mostly for positive things, to get in touch with themselves, the reality around them, to get a word from a higher order. And I think of people like Mahatma Gandhi, for instance. Fasting was part of his whole satyagraha, which was passive nonviolence. And it just goes on and on. And then, of course, those of us in the religious community, we see this throughout the Bible and throughout our religious writings as being a way, like you said, to get in touch. So it's not something that is a gimmick. It's an actual part of the human culture that brings about an improvement in our own lives as we fast, and we take that and give it to somebody else.
That's great. Let's just share a little bit. Maybe there's going to be a wrap-up of a meeting that we're going to have November 30th.
November 30th is the last day of the month. It's a Sunday evening, and what we anticipate is having I don't have a title for it, I'll call it a musical concert at this point, but a wrap-up where we come together, members of the different faiths or simply of the community, and we come together to celebrate the successes of the community fast. We anticipate it will be held at the Sholo Auditorium at 6 p.m., about an hour long, to wrap up the community fast and kick off the holiday season, the Christmas season as well. And my guess is there will probably be some experiences shared of blessings and benefits that have come from the fast, people that have benefited from it, and join in song. And Mayor, we hope that you'll be able to come to that as well.
Well, I'll definitely put it on my schedule and try to make that it is a great positive day and a great thing that we can have. You know, so as we go through different people and different things that we have, it's an outreach, and I think we need to realize that what we can do. I know we've set a goal this time to stretch a little further from the $9,000 that we did last time to, we have a goal of $15,000. And so it's going to be a challenge for our community if they can, you know, realize that the needs haven't changed, realize that we've been blessed, that we've escaped some of the great perils of our time here, one of our driest seasons, and yet we escaped without any severe, you know, we did have forest fires around, but those are one of the blessings that we didn't have anything or anybody seriously injured by fire or displaced, you know, from their homes.
There's much to be grateful for. I think in terms of Sholo, just one thing, water. We're sitting on top of an aquifer. We have a wonderful resource of water, and it's great. You know, we ought to be grateful for that. And there's so much else that we have here in this community that all of us can be appreciative of and share with one another and helping each other. And this is a way to do that.
That's great. And how has it been working together? Just
It's been
camaraderie
great.
and
You know,
things.
Pastor Tom and I have been friends for some time now, and Pastor Heckathorn, and some of us have had good long friendships, and it's been fun to develop new friendships and to reach out and from the religious community to work together. And those members of the church that I represent have loved it. They have just loved it, feeling like developing friendships and brotherly love and neighborliness and all of those things that Sholo is known for.
That's fantastic. Well, we really appreciate it. And again, that fast is November 16th to the 22nd. You can make your donations at City Hall or any of the banks, and just go in and let them know that you're donating for the community fast, and that money will stay here locally. Guys, we appreciate it again. Pastor Brown for being here.
Thank you,
President
Mayor.
Williams, thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us on Inside City Hall today. If you have questions you'd like answered, please call them to the City Hall at 532-4061, and we'll answer them here on the show. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.